I went to one place and I was speaking at a training facility. The pastor went around to everybody and did a love offering and handed me $70.
Wow.
Right. And you're like, well, it's just $70. It's not the amount, it's the account.
Yes.
It's the idea that you did that first. And so if people are in that situation, I want you to shift your mindset into how can I serve first? And then we'll take from that how we're going to make other things happen. Because wherever your belief system is, this system of leading with service first always works.
Right.
And people have to get into that mindset instead of what can I get? Turn that into whom can I serve?
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, folks. It's Audley Stevenson back for another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. You've got to lock to the Audacious Living Podcast, and I appreciate you for being here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I encourage you to follow us on our social media channels. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the handle The Audacious Pod. Or if you're watching this particular episode on our YouTube channel, then you tap that bell down below, ding, 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 and you are immediately connected to all great things audacious related. Now, here's a question for you. How often do you pause to appreciate the good things that you have in your life? And I mean, stop and pause and look around at all the blessings that you have. Without question, it'll be one of the toughest things in the world to do, particularly when things aren't going our way. It's so easy to forget the incredible blessings that life offers when things don't go well or if we hit a rut. Now, having said that, I'm extremely confident that we can always find something good about our life, regardless of what we're facing. Even on the rainiest of days, there's something to be thankful for. Ahmard Vital joins me on this edition of the Audacious Living Podcast, and we explore through the power of conversation, really more about what appreciation is and what it's all about, and why taking the time to recognize what we have is a good thing. Ahmard is an author, a motivational speaker, and a former athlete who has lots to offer to his audiences. So without any further ado, let's jump into my conversation with Ahmard Vital. Enjoy. Hey, Ahmard. This is awesome to have you here with me on the Audacious Living Podcast. Man, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on.
It's very cool, very cool. I absolutely love engaging in these conversations where we can help people identify the things that they need to do to get themselves to a better place, and exercise that audacious spirit that we talk a lot about here. And I know with you take a similar approach, particularly with our young people and helping them recognize the goodness in the world, starting with the goodness in themselves. So again, this makes total sense. Glad that you're here. And perhaps as a starting point, I can get you to sort of talk about the work that you do and how you landed where you're at.
Well, again, thank you for having me on, man. I enjoy having these conversations that are needed in society. I'm a guy who's just had a pen and pad in his hand his whole life. I learned to walk, and next thing you know, I was writing. So I've been writing pretty much my whole life. And so whereas you see the coach, you see the speaker, you see the facilitator, you see someone who does curriculum, but at the core of me, I'm a writer.
Okay.
Right. Like I really think that I'm going to leave this earth, and God's going to call me home, and I'm gonna have a pen and pad in my hand, and I'm good with that. And so everything spins off the idea that I'm a writer. Obviously now I'm doing some keynote speaking. I work with nonprofits. I'm work strong in the ministry and things of that nature. And there's many layers to what I do, but at the end of the day, being an author and being a writer is really my core. If that's where, if that's what I'm known as going forward, I'm good with that. I do like to obviously lean in a lot to young adults, young people.
Yep.
The youth is a platform that I've done for some time, but I've really leaned into it for the past 2 years. The shutdowns and all of the COVID and all of the politics, spirituality, and culture that went around that really sparked me, which, led me to write my book in the summer of, in the summer of 2020, was just published here recently. All of that stuff just really just awakened in me the idea that if we don't take care and build a bridge to future generations, we have nothing. Right. There's nothing else to build. And obviously, when I talk about young people, I'm really leaning in hard on young men. I love my guys and how they show up. And I want to help them to be able to show up at a greater clip and be able to do great and amazing things like, build the world like we've done for centuries.
Absolutely. There's no reason why they can't, right? None whatsoever.
None. Only problem is the society is trying to encourage them not to, and that's going to be a problem. And so I don't know how many of us are standing in that gap, but I'm willing to be there. So let's make something happen.
Right. So talk to me about because part of if you sort of look at the list of things you do, obviously you see author, writers there, coach, a whole bunch of things, but you're also a mental performance coach. I wonder if you can expand on that a bit more and what got you or attracted you to that kind of work.
Well, I got my training from a man named Dave Austin. He's out of San Diego, California. Took me down there, went through his course through Extreme Focus. And really it was taking the personal and spiritual development and putting it together in a coursework to be able to help people navigate through goals, have them to navigate through life. And now obviously I've taken that from the sports arena and taken it now into young adults, because we do have a situation where there's a lot of talented people. There's a lot of intellect and very little application. All the degrees in the world and you're broke, right? And so we want to be able to look over all the things you have going on in life and say, how can we turn this into a useful service? And I know people say, well, money's not everything. Well, try living without it and see how it works. Right. It doesn't. We must be resourceful. We must be able to provide a service, because at the core of things, and I mean, I'll be very, very open. I am a free market capitalist to the core, right? Okay. You provide the most service for the most amount of people. You deserve what comes from that, okay? Right. I want to get people out of the idea of just, everything that makes me feel good, because everything that makes you feel good may not be what makes you money. And I'm not saying that there's not something you could do that's going to make you money that feels good also, but there's a process to this. And there's a trade-off to certain things. And I like to be able to help them understand that, like, hey, this season is not going to be happy. It's going to be in the end fulfilling, but it's not going to be happy. Right. And I think that's where a lot of things get twisted. Like, hey, do what makes you feel good. Maybe some people may have that set up, but there's going to be a time when a part of what you need to be able to survive and live and take care of your necessities, it may not be a happy time. Right. It may not be, gumdrops and rainbows and everyone's, playing skip to my Lou outside. Right. There may be a time when it's a little rough. You may need to work that job to build the business, to give you time to build the business and build your clientele to be able to do some great things. And so as a mental performance coach, I take all of the dirty laundry, I take all of your mess, I take all of your trash, and we put it all out there and see if there's a diamond in there. And so we try to sift through all of that and make sure and get you in a place where you're being productive. We need more productive citizens, not only in my country, but in yours as well. We need more people who get up and attack life, with what I like to call a relentless pursuit, and go in and make something happen, serve the greatest number of people. And then, maybe we can get to the point where we're building some things. Got you.
Well, and I very much love that approach about, people going out, quite frankly, that's where the spirit of Audacious comes from, going out and doing something, right? The problem is sometimes, Ahmard, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is that, different people have different things that are holding them back, right? Whether they're sort of past situations where I'm feeling about myself currently, or potential obstacles I see in front of me. And so with each one, there's a strategy or approach that you need to take on to get past that, right? And so, but it's very much around like, what do I got in front of me and what do I got to deal with, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, man, it's the idea. And I think sort of this newfound way of looking at mental health. And I'm not diminishing the idea that mental health is a real thing, right? I'm not saying that. But sometimes if you listen to some people and they're talking about these mental health issues, it's just, you just had a bad day.
Right.
You know, or you're in a season where things are not so awesome, right? Maybe you went through a divorce, you lost a sibling, a bad breakup. It's something that went on that has you maybe not feeling so great about every day. Now, there are strategies to be able to get through that. But I remember I was talking to a minister friend of mine, and he said something so profound when it comes to like, let's say someone lost their job. And that's a rough thing because obviously you need the resources. You know what he shared with me that he tells people to do when they first lose a job? Is to go volunteer somewhere. The first thing he tells them to do is go serve. Go serve meals at the Salvation Army. Go help the homeless. Go do something for Habitat for Humanity. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I don't have the resources. I just lost my job. And the first thing you do is serve. And then I understood what he was saying.
Right.
You have to get into the point where you have a servant mindset.
Yeah.
Right. Like you said, they're dealing with a lot of things. Okay. Take some, what Napoleon Hill would call some personal inventory and say, all right, what do we have here?
Yep.
I got a mess. There's some dirty clothes over there. My kid's crying. You know, the bill collectors are calling. Yep. The lights are about to get cut off. And it's like, okay, what do we have here that actually works?
Right.
And the bottom line is that when you get to the point where you say, okay, this is pretty rough, but the game of life is not about me. And when you lead with service first, when you go out and say, okay, this is what I'm going to provide for the people, then this is what we're going to do and make some things happen from that. A quick story I'll share. When I went through my divorce, it was a very rough time for me because I was doing well in the sports media industry, but 65% of my income was lost because a lot of those things had dried up by that time. Yeah. I was out of my house that I could no longer stay in. I was put out, but I'm still paying the mortgage.
Yeah.
But I lost 65% of my income, and I got to pay to live in, motels, hotels, people's couches because I'm trying to figure things out. So I'm like, hold on. So my income drops by more than half. I'm stuck on the street, and I'm still paying for bills at a place where I can't even reside. So, and I remember a conversation I had with God. I was in prayer, and I was just like, God, like, this is rough, and I don't have the answer. So you're going to have to show me something. And I remember God sharing with me, like, I gave you a voice to empower people. I'm like, but I got no money. How am I supposed to get there? I gave you a voice to empower people. And I remember I called a coach friend of mine and I said, Coach, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Yes. I said, but I'm led to call and tell you that I will give you your team a keynote and a leadership package all on the house. Just all I need you to do is say yes. Right. All I ask for is for you to allow me to video it and you give me a testimonial, but everything else is for free. And he was like, okay. And I remember doing that. And I went into, and I tried that the first time and it went well. I was able to touch some young men in that spot. We're talking about at a school where only 32% of them can do English at grade level, right? We're talking about math scores that are in the toilet. And I did that talk. And I remember leading with my heart first. And I started doing that over and over and over. I'll tell you, that year, I did 22 speaking engagements. Wow. And I led with service first. Didn't ask for an invoice. Right. Yet I made the second most I made as a speaker that year, because what ended up happening is I was doing things, asking people to put me in contact with nonprofits and other places that I could go speak to for free and take care of some things. I was just telling people, hey, just pay my travel expenses and I'll do this. Right. But what ended up happening is when I get there and I led with service, they say, hey, this was beautiful. Can you come back and speak at our conference and we'll pay you $2,000? Can you come back and speak to our sports team? I'll give you $500. Wow. Or how about this? You come here and I have a gift card. I have a love offering. I went to one place and I was speaking at a training facility the pastor went around to everybody and did a love offering and handed me $70.
Wow.
Right. And you're like, well, it's just $70. It's not the amount, it's the account.
Yes.
It's the idea that you did that first. And so if people are in that situation, I want you to shift your mindset into how can I serve first? And then we'll take from that how we're going to make other things happen. Because wherever your belief system is, this system of leading with service first always works.
Right.
And people have to get into that mindset instead of what can I get? Turn that into whom can I serve?
Yeah. No, I hear it, and it's powerful. It's still hard though. It's hard to look past yourself and your problems and what you're dealing with, and the flight or flight mode that you're happening right now in that exact moment. It's still a tough process.
Well, I tell you what, whatever money you have, go to the store and buy you a 20-pack of thank you cards. And I want you to fill out all of them and send them out to people randomly and put a stamp on them and see what happens in your life from there. And now you're like, oh, that's just you, because you don't know. It's the idea that your heart and your mind is connected on the idea, because it's not about you. Like life is not about you.
Right.
And but as long as you stay in that mindset, it's going to stay hard because you think you were sitting here and it's about you, and it's not. I don't know who to attribute this quote to, but I've used it several times. And it basically goes like this: ask not how many people will mourn you when you die, but how many people were better off because you lived. And I don't know who to attribute that to. I just know it's amazing. And I've used it a few times in my life, but that's where we have to be, is to where we are in servant mindset. We are in gratitude mindset. We are in humility mindset. This is bigger than all of us. And when you get there, it's challenging. It's tough. No one said this was going to be easy.
Yep.
Right. Yep. I mean, obviously I'm a believer. I'm a Christian. You read through the book. None of the people I read about in the Bible had anything easy. It's crucial. Right? They all took losses. They all, failed multiple times.
Sure.
And there's examples all around there. So this whole YOLO happy life, I don't know who lied to you and told you that that's the way this goes.
Yeah.
But it's like the struggle is beautiful, right? And when you're coming up as a teenager, when you put in the work and you actually see the win, there was something different about it. The time when you saved up for your first car. When there was a big purchase and you saved for months and months and months, maybe years, and you were finally able to accomplish that and buy it. And you're just like, man, and you look back over those months, it's like, what did I give up to be able to do this?
Yes.
And I think when we take that mindset into serving other people, man, you'll live a better life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
because the resources will come when you have the right mindset of how you're approaching life.
Yep. You're pointing in the direction of gratitude a little bit in what you're touching on, and that's a big aspect of how get to that place by being gratuitous of what you have. You reference an exercise that you do about what's good here, and I think that's a really good exercise to help with it. I wonder if you sort of talk about that a little bit, because I mean, what that really forces us to do is look at what we got, right, and be gratitude and have gratitude for it, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and what's good here is an exercise I've been doing for some time now, and obviously it ended up making it into my new book, because I remember it was built on the idea of talking with someone who, like, everything is not. It seemed like everything in his life was going horribly. I mean, like everything. And I'm sitting there trying to unpack this as a coach, and I'm like, ooh. Like every turn you were making was like a roadblock, like a steel, like a brick wall.
Yes.
And so I take the what's good here, because it takes you to a place where you have to face the facts.
Yes.
So, you're sitting in the room and you're looking around, like I said, your kid's crying in another room. You can't afford the rent. You're wondering where the next meal is going to come from. Your boss is riding you. You're probably about to lose that. You and your ex aren't getting along. I mean, it's just everything is just rough. So I tell people to go get you one of these. I know people like to type. I want you to go get you one of those long legal pad, yellow pads, the big one, the one that's extended. Yeah, and I want you to draw a line down to it. And I want you right on the top, what's good here. And even though I don't really like the subjective labels of good and bad because it all works for the good. That's a whole nother conversation. Sure. But I want you to put on the left side, I want you to put everything about your life. So I'm going to use a word. It's not a curse word, but it's a little bit of a strong word. I want you to put everywhere on the left side of how your life sucks. It's just, and I want you to get all of it. I want you to have the pity party, invite the ladies over for cheap wine and just unload all the junk. Everything. I'm talking everything. I want you to dig out everything that you think, everywhere where your life is completely garbage and you think there's no way out of it. I want you to write down all of it. And I want you to dig deep of all the stuff, of all the complaining. Let it all out. Write it all on the left side. Take the past, stash it away. Minimum of 4 hours. And I really want to extend it up to a half a day or possibly even a full day or maybe even a weekend. I just want it out of sight, out of mind. Go back through your day. Before you go back to your pad, whether you're taking the hours approach, the day approach, the weekend approach, whatever it looks like for you, I want you to sit somewhere still. You can sit still and just let your thoughts be open. You can sit still and you can pray. I just need you to sit still and calm everything around you.
Okay. You
haven't looked at that list at all. You unloaded it. Your pity party's over. Now you pull the list back out and you look down all that. On the other side, I want you to write what's good here. And I want you to see either one or two things that's going to happen. You're going to say, okay, something good came from that. And I want you to write down what that is. Or what's going to ultimately happen is you're going to look down at that and say, why am I even concerned about this? This shouldn't even be on my radar. I haven't talked to this person in 5 years. Why are they still in my mind?
Right.
So you're either going to say why this is a great moment on the right side, or this no longer serves me and needs to go. And so once you're able to do that, then that's step one of kind of some personal inventory. And it's like, okay, now that it's over here, what was the good from that? And we build from that good. We take, all of the bad and say, well, because people ask me all the time, like, well, what do you regret? I'm like, nothing. Because the man who's in front of you doesn't come here without all the dumb mistakes I made, without all of the missteps that were made, without all of the experiences that were extremely painful. But I'm not talking to you with this level of conviction, of aggressiveness. If it's not for like, man, please do not be the 20-year-old version of me, right? Let me save you of 30 years of pain. Maybe you could just take 10 instead of the full 30.
Absolutely.
How about that?
Absolutely.
So yeah,
I will shorten your learning curve. Let me shorten your learning curve, right?
Just a little bit, man. I understand everybody's got to take their losses, but maybe you and your dad don't have to fight for 35 years of your life. Right. How about that?
Right.
Maybe you and your mom can reconcile after 2 years instead of 20.
It's true. It's true. But I hear you. But again, I think that's a very important exercise, and the value in putting on pen and paper, it's visual, is right in front of you. You can actually see it. It's a very deliberate exercise. So so for me, hearing that and hearing how you explain that, it's like, okay, there is something to be thankful for. There is something I can be appreciative of. There is something I can take from my life that I can build on and add to it, right? Because, life is a collection of experiences, right? We sit here, Ahmard, you sit here as a result of a collection of your experiences. And from those experiences, built on, I've learned from, or I've given to someone else so they can learn, right? So it's take it all, right? That's what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I write about that in the book. It's like gumbo, right? What's all in gumbo? I don't know. I asked my sister that a couple of years ago. I was like, there's a whole lot of stuff in here. What all is in there? And it's like, when you look at the list of what's in there, you're like, my goodness, there's like 400 different ingredients in there. Right. But then I was like, wait a minute. Life is like gumbo.
Is it?
You know, there's some things in a gumbo, if you ate it individually, you wouldn't like it. But the finished product is awesome. And, you know, you throw some rice in there and you're good to go. But if you take the individual parts, it doesn't take care of your appetite.
That's it.
And like you said, life is like that. Life is the scars. Life is the battle, you know, and especially for my fellas out there, we're not made without the battle.
Oh my gosh.
Like we are, if we don't fight wars amongst ourselves in the game of life, we are useless as adults.
Yeah.
Straight up. You know how it works.
No, it is. And I think, but you need those. Right? Like, I mean, that's what makes you who you are.
It's the only thing that makes you who you are. It's the only thing. It's the caterpillar to the butterfly. It's the seed to the soil. It's the plant. It's under the ground. It's the whatever's going on in the soil is dirty. It's rough. It's death. It's life. And then boom, you come out. It's like, wow.
It's nice.
You know, and it takes time. It takes a gestation period. When do guys usually get our stuff together? I don't know. Early to mid 30s, we start making that upward rise, and then you start becoming.
Yes.
See, we're not made, we become.
Yes.
We're not made, we become.
Yes.
We have to take the low paying job and do the delayed gratification, you know, the sweep up the floors, right? Hands and knees scrubbing, right? We got to go through sports and get our teeth kicked in and sprain an ankle, jump into ditches that are too deep that we thought we could make it, right? Fall out of trees, you know, challenge our boys, right? You know, we got to, you know, get some sparring matches going. We have to hit the weight room and do all of these things and come back with battle scars everywhere and exhausted. And then you become what you need to be. And that's something that I think needs to be restored, right? Because we've taken what it takes from the level of masculinity and we're trying to lessen what needs to happen.
Yeah.
We're trying to take the development stage away. Oh, don't be so rough. Don't go wrestle. No, go wrestle. Go break each other's jaw. Go slam each other. Hit them with sticks. Throw rocks. Right? Ride bikes. Fall off of them.
That's
you know,
it.
Play kill the man with the ball. Right? Come back with your jaw broke. And all get stung by bees, ants, get attacked by a dog or two. All of that. All of it. I don't want anybody to die from this, but I do want you to get hurt because you need it. You need it. You need the battle. You need the struggle, which is why we have a bunch of dudes who are in their early 20s and late 20s, early 30s, and they're looking around and just like, I don't know how to do anything.
Right. Never experienced it. You never went through it. You never had to deal with that.
You never got punched in the face. I know people say, oh, you know, is he condoning violence? A little amongst each other. Because
I get what your point. I get your point. Your point is about the challenge. That's what really the emphasis of. It's not about physical violence. It's the point about the challenge. We need to go through some form of adversity. So, you know, one of the things I talk about oftentimes is that we have to outlast adversity. So what that does, first of all, it tells you adversity is going to come. It is going to come because life is hard, right? And those are looking for an easy life. Those are looking for a path that they can smooth and coast through. You've got it wrong. Because when adversity eventually comes, and it will, you will not be equipped. You won't.
You are telling the truth. It's needed and necessary. There's no way around this.
Right.
You can't think that like the smooth. But then again, it's like, wow. I mean, first of all, you would atrophy. Your muscles would atrophy. Your mind would atrophy.
Yes.
You need critical thinking. You need, and again, that's why I encourage everyone, even if you find out they're not very athletic, put every young man needs to be in competitive sports.
Right.
Every one of them. Now, you might find out like he's not too good at this, but what I mean by that is is you need the idea of responsibility, accountability, discipline,
Yes.
teamwork
Yes.
put in place. So even if you're not that good, I want you part of the structure.
Yes.
I want you part of
Yes.
the system.
Yes.
I want you part of the fact that a coach is going to hold you accountable. You're accountable to your brothers on the team.
Yes.
You're accountable to game time, to practice, to the preparation, to the camaraderie from a locker room. You need all of that, right?
Yes.
Because at the end of it all, you need the idea that there's a clear winner and loser.
Yes.
Right? This participation nonsense needs to go. The idea that everybody's a winner. No, you're not. No. Somebody needs to go home and hold the loss.
Yeah.
Go home and hold the L. Sit in your room and reflect on the idea that you just took a loss, that another man beat you.
Yeah.
And that is where the wins come from.
That's right.
Because you know what? Losing doesn't feel like. You just got to talk about the adversity. Adversity that doesn't feel well.
No.
But you need it.
Yes.
It's part of
better.
it. Stop trying to avoid the pain. People always laugh at one of the keynotes I did. They always say, I found this video where you said, thank you, pain. The context is that I was speaking at chapel at the Salvation Army.
Okay.
And it was about 50% of the people in the room were homeless.
Okay.
And I was feeling some type of way because I'm like, I've had some rough times in my life, but I've never been homeless.
Mm-hmm.
How do I connect with someone who I have no context of what they're going through?
Right.
But then again, I sat back for a second. I said, because there was this woman, she was saying she was going through a 14-year back and forth about getting over drugs. And I told her, I said, well, and she's like, I've been going to this facility. I've been coming here and it's been great for me. And I was just like, well, thank you for being in this spot because I get to connect with you and we can understand what's going on. And because I said, my heart goes out to you because I tell people all the time, you're one or two bad decisions away from being that.
Yes.
Like your whole world can come crashing down in a week.
Yeah.
So you have to stay on guard. Do not conform to the patterns of this world. You have to elevate your mind in a place to where you don't get caught up like that. That's right. I was like, sometimes you got to look at pain and say, thank you.
Right.
Because otherwise, without pain, I'm not sitting here in front of you. I'm not on the Audacious Living podcast without the pain. Right? A silver spoon didn't get me here.
No.
And, fighting through adversity left and right, depression, divorce, you know what I'm saying? All these things, court systems, all of these mistakes, all of these things, the good, bad, the ugly, the gumbo, is the reason why we are here in front of and having this time together.
Yes.
The reason why I speak with so much with the way I do is because, man, thank you, God, for putting me in a position to where I'm able to find the 17 to 20-year-old version of me and say, hey, can I show you a better way? Let's talk.
Yes. And I have to say yes again, because you're absolutely right. The pain is necessary. And, I had a friend recently go through a difficult time, and I've gone through divorce as well. And I was able to put my hand on his shoulder and said, I got you. Here's what you need to understand. And I saw a quote the other day, and it said, my autobiography is someone else's survival guide. Right. And so you talk about what I've gone through and how I use that to get else to a better place. So it's so important. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about your sports background, how that's contributed and helped you. You sort of touched on that a little bit with respects to being a part of the process and catching L's and what that does for you and how that can make you better. But I wonder if you could expand further on just your sports background and how that's led to where you are now.
Well, yeah, I mean, my I've been in competitive sports. My father put me in competitive sports. I think around the age of 9, I was running track. I was running summer track, and man, you learn so much from sports. And luckily, I got it from both sides. So you run, look at sports like track, wrestling, tennis, swimming. Yeah. That's a one-on-one sport, and in those sports, and I learned this definitely covering wrestling for many years. Those sports build character. And the reason why I say that is, like, if you look at basketball, football, baseball, like, those are great. Those are great sports, but those are team sports.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
When you also do an individual sport, it's a level of accountability that you don't get maybe from the team sports. And let me explain that. When you're going out there and running and you're in that lane, it's only you in that lane.
That's right.
Where you finish when you cross the tape is you. It's just you. You can't look over at your teammate and say, hey, you didn't. No, it's just you. When you're in that wrestling ring, in that circle, it's just you. You can't be like, well, Bob didn't. No, it's just you.
Yeah.
And so you have to take all of that in. And I think it builds a lot of character to do that. Now, there is an accountability from team sports, but on a football field, you can say somebody missed the block.
Right.
Quarterback didn't give me the ball.
Right.
A bad play. Somebody, there's, someone didn't run the play correctly.
Right.
And so the overall thing is that we all lost together.
Yes.
Those individual sports, you got to hold that. And I always say, I said that one of the greatest lessons I ever had is I was 10 years old and I was pretty solid track runner. I left high school with 5 school records.
Okay.
But coming up, I was pretty good as well. But there were sometimes it's just not your day.
Yes.
And I remember running in a track meet. I was doing a 100-meter dash and I crossed the line 5th. Okay. And in track, summer track, there's medals for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and they give you like these little floppy ribbons for 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Right.
And I'm sitting there with this, I think it was a purple ribbon, right? And it's got 5th place on it.
I had the same one.
And I'm sick to my stomach, right? And I'm just like, I'm going home and I'm sitting in the back seat. My dad's in the driver's seat. And I remember sitting in the back and I'm on the verge of tears. And I'm just like stewing between anger and sadness. And I remember my mother sitting in the passenger seat and she turned around and she wanted to console me. And my dad gave her that look like, let him hold that. Let him feel all of it. Don't try to pacify. In that whole 30-minute trip home, you just sitting there holding that loss. That development, you can't teach that. That has to be experienced. You can't, there's no manual to give someone to be like, hey, let's put this. No, that is a real life situation happening in real time. Right. That you have to say. And my dad stopped my mother from being the nurturer she is and saying, no, let him hold this. Let him feel all of this. And so my sports background, obviously I went into sports media. And so I was able to cover these young men coming out of high school, coming out of college. And, obviously that was, the background for my first book, Awaken the Baller Within, and just studying the mindset of these guys, man. And I've always been fascinated about that because I'm basically a jock with a pen in his hand. Because, I came up during the time when, being a jock and being smart just wasn't cool. Yeah. When I came up.
They were considered polar opposites.
Yeah. I mean, over time, we started getting a couple of scholars in there and we need them because otherwise we just have, borderline convicts on football fields. So the good thing is we did have some, the Andrew Luck types to be able to keep us in line, which is a good thing. But it was good to be able to have that outlet, I've shared with people before, especially for those who are trying to find a way to connect with their kids. And I'm like, put them in sports. Not only is it good for the developmental reasons we've talked about before, but also a young man needs to run some energy off. You don't need him coming home with a full tank. No. You need him coming home after a day of labor. Shocker how this works. So that's his job. His job is to get good grades and go play the sports. So when you come home and mom hooks you up a good meal, you're ready to go to bed after homework. Okay, we're done here. And you don't have time to go do dumb stuff in the streets with your boys and go terrorizing people, whatever that looks like. So I think the sports angle is great because even like when I was talking about Awaken the Baller Within, Awaken the Baller Within just uses sports as a metaphor for life. That's why I say keep showing up on the field of life because life is a game. It's a ball game. It's a strategy. Like, what do you have? You have goals. Goals are like your playbook. It's like a business plan, all these things. And it's just like putting together a scheme, the game plan going into certain games, because every game you have your philosophy is the same, but your scheme could be different based on what that team does well. and doesn't do well. You have to exploit it. Like when you try to beef your resume up, because it's like, okay, this company likes when people do philanthropic work. So I'm going to lead with the fact that I help build homes. I serve the homeless. I'm doing street sweeping. So you treat life from that standpoint, but sports gives you so much of that as a backdrop. And so that part of me has always stayed with me, even though I'm going into boardrooms, I'm talking to salespeople, I'm talking to middle managers. It's like, I'm still just a jock. And I embrace it because it's who I am.
Yes.
Right. Yes. You know, there's a little bit of an edge to me. Okay. Yes. Some people like it. Some people don't.
Sure.
I'm good with that. I'm good with the fact that like, are you always this intense? Yes, I am. You know, it's what I do. It's how I teach. And I love it. So
it makes up who you are, right? It makes up who you are. And again, we talked about the experiences feeding to get us to this place that we're at now. You needed all those experiences to be who you are, to present yourself to the rest of the world.
And you know, it's like you said, the adversity. I think sometimes my intensity is just like, man, I'm so grateful that I made it out of this. And here we are. Like, thank you, God, for creating in me this. What is this? This is the guy who's going to look at a young man and say, hey, let's do something new. Let's create some service for you. Let me empower you to go out there and be way better than I could ever become, right? I don't want you to fail. I don't want you to falter. I want you to go out there and be great to where I can be like, yes, there's another one. Now on to the next one. Now, how many of these young men can we go out there to be, you know, righteous soldiers in the streets while we're trying to battle all of the evil that's just amongst us right now? Like that's what fires me up, because I see the nefarious things going on. I see what's going on in media. I see what's going on in the medical profession. I see how the school system is corrupted. All of these things. And I'm just like, all right, let's go to war then, right? You're coming after the kids. Good luck. I'm in the way. Let's do this, because I know what you're doing. I know your dirty tactics, but my 14-year-old doesn't.
Right.
But I'm going to put him up on game. Because you know what? I've dipped in your streets before. I know what it's like over there. And you've doubled down since I was a teenager.
Right.
And we're not playing your games anymore.
Gotcha.
And so that's what fires me up from the standpoint of like, oh, how dare you go after my boys? How dare you tell my young men they're toxic? How dare you tell them these things? These young men got to build the world. They got to build your country, my country, and all across the world. They got to get this stuff done. And you're telling them they're toxic?
Nah.
Too competitive, too stoic, too pragmatic. Get out of here.
I love it. On the topic of adversity, and we all face it. You've talked about the impact of your father and losing your father, and what that what that's done for you. I wonder if you can elaborate further, because again, adversity is something we're all going to face. Like I said off the top, it is coming, and it's what we do with it when it arrives is really what counts.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing is adversity doesn't give you a heads up when it's on its way.
I know.
It's not like, get ready.
Yeah. Ding, I'm on the way. No, nothing like that.
Next Wednesday at 4:00, I'll be there. Oh, okay, good. Let me put together my plan. No, adversity hits you but adversity hits you at the right time. It does. It hits you right at the right time, because if you're a believer, you say, all things are for the good.
Yep.
When it comes to, and with God, all things are possible. Obviously, the night after my 33rd birthday, I was like, you got to remember, this is an interesting time. 33 was an interesting year for me, because, I just bought my house at 29. I got engaged at 31. My dad was supposed to sing at the wedding of the woman I'm engaged to. And then boom, now at your 33rd birthday, he's gone. Right. And I was pissed. I was pissed off at God. I screamed at him, yelled at him outside the hospital. Like, really? Did you not hear me on my way over here? I'm arrogant. I'm pissed. I'm letting it all out. And, I'm talking to my Heavenly Father, like he's my homeboy who I want to put hands on, Right. And I remember, the voice calming me as sweat and tears were both just seeping down my face. And he told me, he said, I hear you, and you said that you want your father to walk out of here, but he is walking out of here as you. All the values, the integrity, the work ethic, all those things, he's given all that to you. Now go make your heavenly and your earthly father proud and go do what you are called to do. And it took me a while to really take that in.
Yeah.
But it was like, yeah, he did give me everything. But, as a man at 33, and you're kind of, you're on the apex, you're on the slope. You've already went through kind of the low end paying jobs. You're making a little bit more money. You've accomplished some things. I had a house, was doing well. And this is the time when I need that fatherly advice. And I feel like it was taken from me prematurely. And I was like, God, I'm not ready for this. And it's just like, well, yeah, you are, because with me, you can go do what you need to do. And so I use my father's death. And it's funny, somebody actually labeled a talk I did one time and said, my father's death is the greatest thing to ever happen to me. And I don't know if it's the greatest, but it definitely is top 3 of things that happened to me, to where it's like him not being here, it helps me pour into youngsters who maybe have lost their father or having a strange relationship with their father. And I think, I really do think that God placed me at this point in my life with the young men who are drawn to me in the way. Like I'm called to be that mind of reason to help them through, repairing the father and mother, because the bottom line is that every young man wants to be close to his father. I don't care what anybody says. That relationship is the greatest relationship outside of your relationship to God.
Yes.
With your earthly father. Yeah. Because you think about it, no matter how old you are, does it not feel good for your dad to put his arm around you and say he's proud of you?
Sure.
Is that literally, I love you and I'm proud of you, is the greatest thing I don't care if you're 72 years old and your dad is 90.
Yeah.
You want to hear those words from him.
Yeah.
And I want young men to understand and honor that position, even if the relationship is strained. And so, and the beautiful thing is now I have 2 fathers. My biological father's still with me, and we've had our roller coaster or whatever. But I have the benefit of 2 different men who neither took excuses. And so this is why you get the aggressive, kind of office kilter sometime man who just wants to just give it straight, doesn't really have a lot of PC with it. Right? It's just like, let's just come off the top rope and get straight to the point. Well, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Well, it wasn't true. And so my father did leave me with that. And I have to be honest with you, man, as I'm being very transparent on this podcast, there's times when I'm going through life, like right now, and I'm like, and I'm doing something. I was like, man, is my dad proud of what I'm doing? It's almost like a test in real time. Like if I go into something, it's just like, if my father was sitting across from me, would he say, go ahead and do this or not?
Right.
And it makes you pause for a second and think about, like, who's benefiting from this?
That's it.
Or is there anyone who's going to take a loss from the action I'm about to do? And if that's the case, then I need to reevaluate my life choices, because my dad taught me better than that. And my father, who's still with me, he taught me better than that. So you represent both of those men when you walk out. When you see the name Ahmard Vital, that is the lineage of 2 men who poured into me, whom I need to represent at the highest level I can. Yes. And you were talking about earlier about the adversity, when you think about life at that level and say, okay, there's a lineage behind my last name, you might pause on some of the decisions you make. Because there's a long list of people who held that last name before you. Yes. And it would be nice for you to be able to represent that last name in the most respectful and righteous way possible.
That's right. That's right. That's right. No, hey, listen, bang on it. Look, my parents split up when I was like 6 months old. Didn't know my father growing up. I was in my early 20s, just became a father. And when my daughter was 6 months old, it was the first time I looked in my eyes and go, oh, that's my pops. I had no idea what he looked like, what he was about. He came looking for me. And 2.5 years later, he passed away because he was ill at the time. And so I can either look at that saying, man, I lost my father, go, wow, I had 2.5 years with this man. Because prior to that, I had nothing. I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know anything about him. So my point of sharing this with you is that you take what life gives you and you can do what you want with it. And it's always two choices. You can make it positive or make it negative. I chose to make it a positive because I can now say, I know what this man looks like. I know what he's all about. And you know what I also know? I know he's proud of me. And going back to your point as well, when you ask that, when you go through those moments and you're questioning things, right? I think those are the fallbacks we can always take. You always go positive or negative. One's going to get you somewhere and one's going to get you somewhere else, right? And then it's your choice at the end of the day. So I appreciate you sharing that because it is powerful when you look back at sort of the roles our fathers take in our lives, and it makes so much sense. Why you in turn now want to give back to our young men, and I think it's so important and critical because of all that young men are facing in our society today, and the expectations and the demands that are placed on them, that they what they're required to do, and some of them just don't know. So, Ahmard, I'm glad that you're there to help get those that don't know, that you're taking that stand to help them along the way. So congratulations, man.
Thank you for that. And I don't want to pass over the idea of what a blessing it was for you to meet your father and get those 2 years. Like I got chills as you were sharing that, because that is so powerful, because I can't speak for you, but I would imagine that those 2 years were a life game-changing moment for you. Like, regardless of what you're like, that 2 years probably expedited those 2 years could have been stronger than 20 years elsewhere. Right.
So I'll tell you something. The first 3 or 4 months, it was a struggle. And part of the reason why we struggled is he knew he was ill. So he knew what his mortality was. I didn't at that time. And so he's doing this, hey, son, let's go to baseball games. Let's do this. And I'm going, yeah, I want to go with my daughter. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we were on 2 different wavelengths the longest time because he was trying to cram it all in as much as possible, where I was like, let me take my time with this, right? I'm still trying to figure out what's happening here. And so when we got to that point of understanding, okay, here's your perspective, here's mine, I think it flowed a lot more easier. But you're right, though. I still look at it going, wow, I still had 2 years with this guy. And my life, I'm not gonna say my life was incomplete up until that point, but my life now became full.
You're so right. And I'm going to say something that I've thought about a lot lately, and it's not very popular to say because because men are such an easy target. Yeah. Right. It's like, hold the weight of the world, but also don't do it in the way we want you to. We want you to do it this way. Like, we don't want you to do it your way. And I say this, and I'm not saying that there aren't evil people amongst us.
Right.
But as I've taken time and I'm looking at so many different scenarios, I believe that majority, and I mean majority, I'm talking 80% plus men, if things don't work out in the family unit, there's a reason why, but their results is not due to bad intentions.
Right.
I think that men's core beliefs of providing and protecting, men want to adhere to that and abide by God's word and dictates to be able to do those things.
I agree.
I think the issue is that many times it's the whole you don't know that you don't know. And I'm not making an excuse for that. I'm not, because we have to live with our choices. There's a trade-off. But I think that when men make a choice to maybe take a job that'll keep him from not being at home as much, or maybe he got out at a time and different, I think that the intent behind what was being done is a good intention most of the time. And I know that's not really popular. It's like, oh, well, he's supposed to figure it out. He left me in this and that. And it's just like, have you ever sat down and talked? Because we know when we've done wrong. We know when we make a bad choice, because we have to eat those results like almost immediately.
That's it.
And it eats at us.
That's
right. That time when your father lived for 6 months and he came back to you in your 20s, those 20 years were eating away at him. And I know they were.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, so he's trying to be aggressive and you're just like, oh, I'm not trying to hear this. And it's just like, but now that you have the context or whatever, you see now, and obviously you have children of your own. It's like, now you're looking at it and you're just like, it wasn't awesome when it was happening to me, but I get it.
Yeah.
And I'm not making excuses for it, but at least I understand and have the nuances. And, and that's why I try to stand in that spot, because society doesn't give men grace in that way. And again, I'm not making excuses. I don't want anybody to misconstrue my words.
Yep.
But intent matters.
Yes.
And if the result turns out badly, we have to deal with that anyways.
That's right.
We don't get to avoid it. It's still there. And so I just see that, and I want that to be out there, because there's a young man or there's a father out there who maybe is guilt-ridden. It is, and there's a son out there who's just like, he's just angry. He's not here. And he doesn't know why. He hasn't gotten the full story yet.
Yes.
Right. And you need that. And men of both sides, your dad, went into heaven knowing that he had done right.
That's right.
From the honoring of the father, and like the father and son was restored.
That's
right.
That's right.
God's not looking at the fact that, it was gone for 20 years. No, he was happy that you all maximized the time you had and used it to your best of your ability. And you're a better man. Your daughter's better off because of that relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you made up for it. So I know we went off on something different, but that needs to be explained, because there's so many guys out there who are being demonized for a number of different things. And we need to take a step back and understand what is going on here, not giving no one a pass, but understanding that most of the times we're making decisions based on what we think is the best thing. And sometimes it just doesn't work.
Got it. You're absolutely right, Ahmard. I'm telling you, you're absolutely right. Thank you for that. Look, this has been awesome. It really has. I'm glad we spent this time to chat like this. And again, I'm so appreciative of the work that you're doing with our young men specifically, and making that your platform, if you will. So that's awesome. You're right. Let's give you a chance. So you talk about the baller within, which I love the title, because what that suggests that we all got something inside of us and we got to bring that out. So I'm imagining, it's a little bit about getting that out and how you get that out. And then you've got another book, right? So as you said, you're the writer with the pen and pad in your hand. So I get it. Now what?
Yeah, now what? That's it. Which was a conversation with my father after not being there for like 8 years. So it's like, let's do it. Waking the Baller Within, that was my first book, 2011. We spoke about that a little bit, talking about the mindset of high-end ball players. Same thing Napoleon Hill did with Think and Grow Rich, I did with high-end athletes, and created a blueprint around the idea of dream building, goal setting, and pursuing life with a relentless pursuit. Sports is only the metaphor for it. It's written in very football-ish like language, but we all are ballers. We all are athletes. We all are out there on the field of life trying to make this thing work. Right. Whether no matter your profession, we're out there trying to get it. And so Waking the Baller Within is still available. I'm imagining this is, sometimes when books go out of print, they're not as easy to find, but I'm pretty sure they're available. And of course, they can go to my website and I can make sure and get them a copy of that. But the newest one, Now What, came out January 3rd of this year. Yeah. And Blueprint, good resource for young adults. Mainly, or anyone who's making a major, and I mean a major transition. The what's good here is a part of the opening stage. It says, now what, 5 steps to get up and create the most of life. We focus on 5 key points: reflection, decision, planning, acting, and seeking counsel. So that's the 5 steps to get you from point A to point B. Yeah. And it breaks down, and it has a ton of exercises in there. You could choose the ones that work best for you. You don't have to do all of them. You can do some of them. What's good here is in there. The 3G approach, where you wake up in the morning, every morning, keep a pad next to your bed, wake up and write 2 things you're grateful for and 1 goal. That's it. It. Nothing else. No complex, no business plan. What am I grateful for? And what's one thing I want to get done today? And you know what? That one thing could be to fold the laundry up in that basket next to you.
That's it.
So that kind of runs that down. And so, Now What is been in circulation. It's available at their favorite bookstores. Obviously, my information, ahmardvital.com, ahmard.com, and it's Ahmard Vital everywhere. There's no alias, no added name. You type in Ahmard Vital and everything I've done in my life, which is insanely crazy, it's going to just pop up. So Instagram, Facebook, I'm pretty active on both of those platforms. Doing some podcast stuff. My guys are trying to get some other things set up. We're doing keynote speaking, we're doing coaching. And obviously we're promoting the book, but at the end of the day, my goal is to become the man I needed when I was 17. The goal is to build the most sturdiest bridge that I'm able to, along with other colleagues, along with other men who are empowering youngsters, to build the best bridge possible, to give them a chance, because if we don't build the bridge, we have no future, which means we're done.
Yes.
I want to commit and devote my life to that. And, when people ask, is this the hill you're willing to die on? I'm just like, yeah, because if we don't do that, there's no hill to die on.
Got it.
So I'm here for it. And, if anyone out there is, got a young adult who's maybe struggling sometimes, maybe if they mention the Audacious Living podcast, we'll do a 45-minute session with the young man and get him to a certain place. Complimentary to your guest out there. We have to get back in the trenches. Sometimes you got to take the suits off and roll the sleeves up and put your coveralls on and get out there in the field and start plowing some land. And so ready to start doing some dirty work. And when it comes to my young fellas, I'm ready to get dirty with you and help you get from point A to point B. And point B is going to be where you're serving the greatest number of people and being a useful male figure in society today.
I love it. I love every aspect of it. Thank you to the authors, to the listeners. Ahmard, this has been outstanding. I appreciate you and the work that you're doing. And I also want to congratulate you as well for taking the stand that you have been, because it's an important one. And again, I keep up the great work and all the best. Thanks for being here. This has been a great hour well spent, and awesome. Keep it going, my friend. Keep it going.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Back we are here on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Ahmard for stopping by and for the great dialogue. It was fantastic chatting with you, my friend, and I'm so with you on your messaging around the importance of having a positive mindset and the incredible difference it can make on our lives. So again, Ahmard, I say thank you for the time and wish you nothing but the best. When I reflect on my conversation that I had with Ahmard, I really appreciated so much of what he had to say. But if there's just one thing that I would take from the chat that we just had, it would have to be this. We as human beings have the ability to feel great joy and deep sadness. Oftentimes, people tend to focus on the latter, the things that they don't have, the things that are going wrong, the things that they're missing out on. While it's good to acknowledge and work on the problems in one's life, it's equally important to recognize the good things. And it's for that reason, asking the question, what's good here, is such a great one to ask ourselves. Firstly, recognizing that the good things in your life can improve your mental health. It's super easy to fixate on the negative emotions and the thoughts, but doing so can lead to anxiety and depression. When we're focusing on the good things in our lives, and by doing so, we can bring good feelings, that feeling of gratitude, contentment, which are crucial components of our emotional well-being. Even something as simple as taking a moment each day to focus and appreciate something positive can make a big difference to our overall mental state. Recognize the good things in life can vastly improve our relationships that we have with others. People appreciate positivity and gratitude, and showing appreciation for the good things in our lives can help you recognize the positive things in other people so we can see it in them. And then lastly, recognizing the good things in your life can help us achieve our goals. When you're constantly focusing on what you're lacking, it's easy to get discouraged and essentially give up because of the things that you don't have, and therefore you dash away your dreams. But when you take a step back and focus on the things that you already have and the progress you've made, you can find the motivation to keep going and continuing working forward towards your goals. It's when we recognize the good things in our life, it's a healthy practice that's important for our mental health, our relationships, and our personal growth. So take a moment each day to reflect on the positive aspects of your life, express gratitude for them, and watch as your overall well-being improves. We've come to the end of another edition of the Audacious Living Podcast. And as always, I send my thanks and appreciation to all those amazing listeners and those lovers of Audaciousness for your ongoing support. It's always appreciative, and I say thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.